Arian Foster's here. This is a dude that I used to play against, and obviously a great player, but I'd like to consider myself an interesting person. And when I'd run into Arian or run into him on the field, he gave the interesting person vibe out. And I feel like it's easy to identify if you're into shit outside of football. And so I guess the first question would be, how's retirement treating you? I think it's been 3-4 years now. Are you happier than ever?
Man, well, that's a roller coaster ride, right? Because like, yes and no, right? Because it's like I'm extremely excited about, like, it's like a new chapter. But then, like we were talking about before we got on, it's like you wake up from this like NFL whirlwind that it's really just like a career whirlwind that you just kind of like, it was like all a blur and it's like all kind of just done. And then now you gotta sit with yourself. And so then you gotta like address all the demons that you picked up along the way. And so it's like it's a real thing. And you say a lot of the, people that we play with, people are depressed, people are going through anxiety, people are going through, not to get all deep on the first question, but
deep fucking podcast. This is a deep podcast. It's not macro dosing deep. We're gonna get yeah. But no, I felt like, and I've said this to dudes before, I felt like the NFL obscured my view in a lot of ways. I mean, like, you don't have any room to look, in your periphery or like really inside yourself to find out who you are. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, we signed up for it and we loved it, but there might be something even better on the other side of the door. And that's how I feel in retirement. And I just didn't know, because you've been into so much stuff since you finished, that maybe not the real you, because it's always been there, but the whole you could come out.
No, I think you hit a nail on the head, man. It's the real me could actually, you can explore it, because I think a lot of times, especially in our era, right? This era is a little different because we were on like the precipice of social media and what it was going to be, right? And so like we were kind of navigating those waters before, like we were getting in trouble for things we were saying and shit like that, right? Like these guys, like they've embraced the individuality, and the leagues have started to embrace the individuality, whereas we were right before it happened. And we were like, yo, we were on that bubble of, you have to walk this PR line and you have to keep a public image. And so like we kind of like broke that mold of like, you know what, fuck that shit. And so like we kind of took all those bullets for the, he's this or he's that, where these guys are kind of like more, this is who I am. And the NFL, for me, like it was a dream come true. But I spent so much time. It was something that I loved when I was a kid, and I knew that was my way out of my circumstances. But you spent so much time perfecting your craft that you forget to like massage the other side of you. That actually, like, I didn't go to sleep thinking about football, Well,
culturally, there's a pushback when you're like, I like to write poetry,
right?
Like, so if part of what you're into is something like that, like, a lot of dudes we play with nowadays. Times are changing where guys have more interest, and that's kind of what you just alluded to. But when we got in the league, like I was talking to Ricky Williams about this. It's funny because he's the perfect interlude in this conversation. When you get in the league, like in 2008 or whenever Ricky got in, like 08 for me, and I think it was 08 for you or 09? 09. You were a year after me. But like, I feel like vets were different. Like you couldn't say like, well, I'm into this shit off the field. Like people would look at you sideways. And so I think it's a good time to be an NFL player. And I think also like guys like yourself or guys like, me to a degree, and there's been a whole host of players that were into shit other than football, can prove that like you can be well-rounded and still love the game and still be a bad motherfucker between the white lines and still be a great teammate. So I think, you said it, they took bullets. And I think Ricky Ricky was ahead of his time. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I don't even think he knew how ahead of his time was. He took all the bullets for the modern athlete.
Yeah. I mean, think about it, if he was a player in today's league, like the mental health issues that he was going through, the anxiety he faced dealing with the media, the advocacy for weed, like all of this stuff that was like during then it was like, oh, he's this, he's that, he's crazy, or he's like, you know what I'm saying? But he was just like, nah, he was just like a regular cat who liked to smoke weed, he liked playing football, but didn't like the facade around it, which was a lot of us. Like Marshawn Lynch is the same way, right? He took a lot of flack as well. but I mean, I'm glad it's progressed, and I think that's naturally what's going to happen in every culture. You're going to progress more towards individuality and embracing people.
Well, it's like they gave us the gun, so to speak. They were like, okay, we want more of y'all. You know, like the 24-hour news cycle is insatiable. We need to know like what kind of shoes you guys wear. We need to know what kind of hobbies you have. And people like were almost like kind of bullies about that access. And now they have the access, and a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to hear about it. Well, you're the one, fan, who wanted to hear about my life 24/7, and now you don't want to hear about it because there's certain things that you think are counterintuitive or not conducive to being a gladiator on the field. And you brought up Marshawn, who I think is a great example. Marshawn literally he's the blueprint for an athlete that wants to say like, here, I'm going to plant my flag. Like, I don't give a fuck. I'm here to do what I want to do. I'm here to talk about what I want to talk about, and nobody's going to own me. And guess what? He still gets the Campbell's Chunky Soup commercials. Like, he still gets the biggest ads right there with guys who did it the other way, which is fine to do it that way and to have a brand and to be intentional. But it just goes to show that in today's climate, you can be either and you can still thrive. So I think that's cool.
He's one of those cats that it doesn't matter what he does. He's just so authentically himself that you don't have a choice but to love him. Like, you don't have like, like if you don't like Marshawn Lynch, like something's wrong with you. Like
something is wrong with you.
I promise it's you. But it was funny you mentioned that because I remember I was doing the Super Bowl press run the year that the Seahawks was there, and that whole I'm just here so I don't get fined.
You with all the attention, and they just want you to talk when you really don't.
I'm just here so I won't get fined.
Thing happened with Marshawn, and that year I did the same thing but in training camp, but I answered all the questions with I'm just here to be a good teammate. It was like 20 questions in a row. I just answered the exact same thing, and I got fucking crucified for this shit. And then Marshawn did it in the Super Bowl later on that year, and I was on First Take arguing with Stephen A. Smith about that exact same thing.
God bless you for doing that.
Yeah.
You deserve a medal.
It's an interesting conversation because he was like, well, you know, the media is the conduit to the fans, and the reason is why you got paid so much money. I was like, okay, that's what's up. I was like, but you guys got to pick a lane. Which one do you want? Do you want the athlete to shut up and play ball, or do you want him to mind his own business? I was like, you guys are asking both, and anytime one is the extreme of the other, you don't like it. And I was like, that's on y'all.
And right now we can take detours because we own our own platforms, which is a big deal. You said something a second ago that, like, you know, it just hit me, like Marshawn, you know, one of the great backs of our generation of all time. You were definitely one of the great backs of our generation, somebody that people are going to remember for a long time, especially that 4 or 5 year run, man. But you did it in Houston, and you were yourself in Houston, which is a way different climate than Seattle. I'm not talking about temperature.
Yeah.
Was that tougher than people realized?
Well, yeah, I curved a lot of my early years. I curved it, and I was kind of playing the PR role because I was undrafted, and so that, you know, undrafted guys, the leash is way shorter, and so it wasn't until I was like, once you realize, like, once you get on the field and you ball and you can kind of do what you want to do, then I started opening up. But at first, I was towing the company line because I wanted a job, but like, when I started really opening up and being myself, and I started exploring things like diet, right? Like now, like I know cats who are endorsing like plant-based companies, right? I came out when I was vegan in 2012. I got lambasted all over.
That's a tough place to be a fucking vegan in Houston.
Bro, it was crazy. You know what's crazy is like I couldn't find it was 2012. I couldn't find any vegan spots. There was like one or two, right? And like now there's so many vegan options, right? It's just more. I mean, it's just more an embraced lifestyle. Like you know, there's better science behind it and stuff like that. And now, like, I do more moderation, still do a lot of plant-based meals. When you're on the forefront of that, like, it's tough, especially in Texas. It was like, this is a Bible Belt. This is
eat our cows, man. Eat our fucking cows.
100%.
Like, there's a cow on your helmet. You have to.
It's like the, you know, it's like the Bible Belt. This is like. Mm-hmm. This is a red state. I'm far from that, and so it's like I remember one time we was hosting this a brunch or something like that for, like, you know, it was like the big money people all in Houston.
Oh, I hate those with the circle tables and no offense to anybody that was ever at a table like that with me. I probably liked you, but in general, like, just the whole thing putting on
real uppity. I hated it, and so we was up there, and so it was me. Well, it was all the teams, and so they asked like the more notable guys to come up and say some words, and so it's me, JJ Watt, and Andre Johnson, and we was up there, and they asked what's the best thing you like about Houston, and then I was last, and so Dre was like, yo, I love the fans, and the people, and JJ was saying, it's like all the fans and the environment. I was like, no state taxes, and like the room. The room went silent, bro.
Which should be, but to those people in a red state, that should be like, yeah, well, he's with us.
Yeah, it's just not. But it's just not what football players are supposed to say at that time. You know what I mean? It was funny though.
No, and Andre actually answered. Like I barely ever heard Andre talk.
He don't talk.
I know he talks, but very rarely was there ever a time that in a locker room you were like, holy shit, that like he snapped, and everybody was like, because I'm sure he's that guy that if he snaps, everybody's like silent.
Like rarely, it'll be like on the sidelines or something. Like if we were down or something, like he'll be like, "Come on, man!" Like something like, and he don't ever say it. So like I remember one time, it was my rookie year actually. I didn't really speak to him my whole rookie year. That was Dre, right? It was like he's like an all pro. He's gonna be a Hall of Famer, and that's just Dre. So like I was like 4 lockers down from him, and I just never really spoke to him. And it was the second to last game of the season, and I was rookie, and that was my first start actually, and I had a good game, and we had one drive, we get a first down, and we're out of there. And then so right before they punt us the ball, he's like, he looks at me, says, "Hey, Arian," he said, run us on up out of here, man." I was like, "Oh shit, Dre."
Oh, he talked to me.
Dre has spoken to me, and I got the first down.
Dude, that's. But it's hard coming in and trying to impress the vets, and not even trying to impress the vets, but just trying to be cool around them, because you walk into these locker rooms with like living legends. Was there any like you got to play in Miami late in your career? That was a different taste. Was there a team that you kind of eyeballed your whole career and was like, I'd love to play in that city for that team or for that coach in that system?
Oh, Pete Carroll, for sure.
Yeah, that would have been a nice fit.
Yeah, Pete Carroll. And then schematic wise, probably Payton. Yeah, Sean Payton. Yeah. I like the way he uses his backside of the backfield, because when I was in the league, like I was the bell cow. I was downhill zone running, like I got 20 times a game, but like we would do shit like in practice where I would like line up against they put me in slot, or they would put me against the receivers. I was lining up against our ones and twos, and I was getting them work, and like that was my real talent. I feel like that wasn't really exploited that well in the NFL. It's like I could run routes better than most.
Well, that's so interesting, because, and people know this, I think like we have overemphasized the straight line 40 time, and you ran like a 4.7, but on the field, I never was like, that guy's slow. Like
it's because that did follow me. My
people listening, he just gave me the
Yeah. So this is why, because yes, that I did run a 4.7, but I was in the Senior Bowl, and I had, it's a long story, but I had pulled a hammy in the Senior Bowl, and that was like late January, and the combine is late February, and so I wasn't ready for the combine, and so I didn't run in the combine. And in March, it was a grade 2. It was a bad one. Yeah. And so I was at my pro day, and I told them I wasn't going to run, and they was like, "Oh, we need to get a time on you." I was like, "We have to get a time." I was like, "Bruh, like it's just still hurting. Like I could run, but I can't run." It was like, "We need to get a time." So I ran a 4.7. Like I'll probably say I'm like a 4.5 on a good day.
Yeah, I was thinking probably if I had to really guess, you'd be like, a 4.55 guy. Like that would have been my guess. But either way, like you don't have to be a 4.3 guy to play running back, and you don't have to be a 4.3 guy to get split out and get used in an offense, like in so many different ways. What do you think that like the body types are changing outside of like Derrick Henry, where people are looking at the bell cow type back as kind of a dying breed? And do you think it is a dying breed, or do you think that we're overreacting to kind of the last 10, 15 years of where football's tried to go?
No, I think the toll on the body that it takes will definitely shorten your career, but that's ball, and that's why I think running back is probably the most. It's the hardest position to play. I don't say that because I played it, but I say it because you look at what has the least amount of years in their prime. It's the running back,
right?
Because you take the most toll to be on the top of the game for that amount of years, and so in order to prolong your career, you have to have hands. You have to catch the ball out of the backfield, and you have to rotate. And that was a big thing in my career, where I was like, I hated rotating. Like I hated getting subbed in and out.
So did I.
because it was like I don't know, like I always felt like I could do it all, right? And I was a 3 down back, but I was just young and I didn't understand like the toll that took on my body. Like that shit fucked me up. I'm still.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
When you're young, like, and you're a 3 down player, like the 3 down players are going away in a lot of areas on the field. Like for sure, D line became such a rotation thing. Like late in my career, they were like, "You're gonna play 25 snaps a game. What are you complaining about?" I was like, "I need 60, dude. I was used to 60 in St. Louis." Like we had great players like 2 deep, but we also like the guys up front got their reps, and so running backs becoming less of a 3 down position, and so is D line. And I think for me, it was always rhythm. Like I can't set people up. And I don't know that you set defenses up, but I know as a rusher, you do set people up. I don't know if there was an element to like, I'm going to break this run off different. I'm going to hit the back door on this run. And then I'm going to have them thinking, I'm going to have the backside end nervous. And then the next play, I'm going to hit it right downhill. Like, was there a chess game for you that kind of went away when you were asked to play less?
Oh, 1,000%. That was a big part of my game was that the game, we call it the game within the game. And so there's games I would play with the linebackers. And so there would be cuts I would give up early on in the game just to keep them honest. So I'm going to keep them honest. And then later on in the game when you're tired and because they watch film, right? And every defensive coordinator would come up to me after the game. Well, I tell my players they got to stay honest with it. Like don't over pursue because like I used to cut back. That's what I did. And so but I used to set that up throughout the entire game. Like
I was shuffling on the backside if you
yeah, I know 100%.
Yeah, I know what he's gonna do.
Yeah.
Still got me, I think, once or twice down there in Houston. But yeah, there's so funny y'all set people up just like other position players. And I think people think, oh, plays called, it's gotta hit this gap.
I mean, for the most part, you're gonna try to get loose, but you play the game, man. I've been playing since I was 7 years old. I know if I'm gonna break a long one or not, and if I'll sacrifice a couple yards just to keep somebody honest to set them up a little later. Like, yeah.
And again, I think one of the hardest things is just as you said with your personality and like becoming established, like you also got to be a certain amount of established to try some crazy shit out there. To be autonomous within a defense or an offense.
Oh yeah, 1,000%. Like I remember one of my favorite runs of all time was I was playing. We was at Tennessee, and we was running zone to the left, outside zone to the left, and I had never really done it in the league before. I did it in practice, and I did it like all the time, like in maybe college and high school, shit like that. But like I remember, I was just like, I'm not going over there. Like I just remember thinking like, nope, and I just like stuck my foot in the ground and reverse field all the way, and that's like a no in the league, right?
Oh yeah.
I did it. I think I went for like 45 or something like that.
See, there you go. You can't go for 45 on a cutback and run a 4.7.
100%. Of course. Because like the boys would always clown me like, oh, you got a 4.7. I'm like, yeah, but like I was pulling off on cats that ran a 4.4. So you
exactly, and there's field speed. Like, and that's the thing is, like. Was there ever a linebacker that you had a real rivalry with? You said you played games with, in division. Was there a guy that you were like?
There was a couple in division where it was like we had battles. Clint Session hit me the hardest I've ever got hit in my life, dog. Oh my God. That motherfucker was a little cannonball. We played Atlanta a few times in Cat Witherspoon. Me and him had battles. Yeah, me and him had battles.
He was just doing that, dude.
Yeah, me and him had battles. I loved playing against him because it was like I talk shit on the field. Like I talk shit. I will try to hurt your feelings with my words. But then afterwards, like a lot of the time cats like take it personally. But like I didn't care. Like he was like one of the ones where we was on each other's necks, and afterwards like, yo, what a battle. Like that's
dude, that's the way
I love.
That's the way it should be. What's the worst thing you ever said to somebody that you can share?
Oh man, what's funny is I was actually mic'd up. And they will. I don't know what. I bet you the dudes that watch this, my mic up, because they never released it.
Oh, they're not using that.
Nah, bro, it was bad. It was bad. And so there's a little bit of history behind it. So I had just came out in a documentary called "Schooled: The Price of Sports," and it was about how the NCAA is fucking over people, right? And so I had admitted that I took money under the table, and like a whole bunch of cats. Like we're like, man, why you snitching? Like you doing this, you doing that. I'm like, bro, like why are y'all so like brainwashed by these people? Like, if you don't, and that's what I was telling cats. Like, I was actually at a Harvard. I was speaking at Harvard Business School. It was me, Sherm, and Fitz, and we was talking. He was like, "Why would you say that?" I'm telling him, like, dog, if you told him you took money, if every big player from any big college told him you took money from every era, because they did, right? What are they gonna do? Erase the entire history of the NCAA? No, they're gonna change the rules. But we're so afraid of them that it's we've just been hoodwinked to think that.
Dude,
it's something.
I'm with you. They need people that are going to say something. I mean, like,
Right.
when I talked about Bud, last year and smoking, I had a couple former players, and I didn't even talk about it. Like, I'm very careful to only involve myself when I'm talking about something like that. Like,
Right.
I got a number of questions about, like, what percentage of the league you think smokes? And I was like, none of your fucking business, but I can tell you I do. Like,
I be dropping dimes. I was 90% of them niggas smoke. 90%.
okay, well, there you go.
Fuck
But here you go. Like, the climate has already changed. And I'm not saying like I had anything to do with that at all. But what I'm saying is, like, when dudes last year were like, yo, dude, like, why are you giving them the game on how to beat drug tests and shit? Because the public needs to know how much of a farce it is. Like, it's just a fucking farce. And guess what happened the next year? And it was coincidental and everything, because the tides are changing. The threshold went way up. So now dudes can probably get away with a lot better than we did. I had to stop smoking for
like a month.
a month, and it was miserable. It was the worst time of the year, dude. So, I think we're getting to a place like where we're better off there.
You make a great point though, because that's my problem with people, and this extends past football, man. This extends, like, even like when you go like into the political realm, right? When you talk about like workers and unions, because if we understand that we are the leverage, like we hold the leverage, like they will acquiesce to all of our demands, or else they do not have a product. Like, that's why workers go on strikes, because they want demands being met. And like if you're sitting here pumping us full of these opioids and all the Toradol shots and all this shit that's gonna fuck our livers up, but then you won't allow us to find our own means of healthier pain relief, like, you're a hypocrite. You're just a big ass hypocrite. And I mean, I'm big on the stance of, like, the NFL is extremely reactive and they're not proactive, but that's a whole nother conversation. But
no doubt about it. And they're reactive to heat being on them, and that's why people need to put heat on them. That's the only way. People don't change. Like, institutions don't change because it's moral. Institutions like change because they're threatened. And I think that's why you got to talk about those things. The college thing, I never knew you, like, maybe I heard this before, but I didn't think it was that big of a deal that you took. Like, what is that like? Because in Virginia, I can tell you, we didn't get paid.
Right.
And also, go ahead.
No, so sure. It wasn't like a salary, right? We didn't get a salary, but it was like, you have cats like, I don't know if you dealt with like runners, like agent runners.
So my agent is 90 years old, dude. He's like, he had like two other people. I just picked the one who had the least people with him. You know what I mean? Because the one that seems the least agent-y.
Agent, I got you.
You know that agent cologne that certain guys have on, like, when they walk in there, I'm like, bro, like, I got it. You're a mover and a shaker. You're in the lobby of the hotel. Like, I don't want that guy.
The bits. So how it usually works, like a lot of big time colleges, is like the agents will send runners, and I don't know how it works now, but this is how it worked when I was in college. Like, the agents will send runners, and they'll wine and dine you and say, this agency is looking for, that they'll slide you some cash every now and then, maybe a monthly stipend or whatever the case may be. And then you got boosters paying for your meals, sliding you some cash every now and then. Like, it's nothing crazy, but I know dudes that got more, I know dudes that got less, but it was just such a known thing, and it is a known thing. Like,
no, it is. Like, everybody knows that. Like, it's like another world when you play in the ACC. Not everyone in the ACC, obviously, because we have Clemson and that sort of thing. And I'm not saying I know what's going on down there, but I would imagine
there's no way it's not. There's no way it's not. And then now, I mean, and this is the thing, right? Is so when I came out and said that, you had a lot of people saying, "Oh, like, you're snitching." I'm like, first of all, I never gave a name. I won't give a name. The NCAA actually called me. And they was like, we're going to conduct an investigation on improper benefits being taken for your time at Tennessee. And I was like, okay. And they was like, would you like to cooperate? I said, absolutely not, but good luck. And I hung up. Fuck y'all. Suck my dick. Fuck y'all. And so, because it was all paper. I mean, it was all cash. They can't trace that shit. And even if they did, who gives a fuck? What are you going to take away, a cotton bowl? Fuck out of here.
Right. Yeah. Like, they took away Reggie's Heisman. You're going to be like, give me back my cotton bowl. Give me back my duffel bag.
Right. They're gonna come get the portable DVD player.
The DVD player. You know how many DVD players flyers I have from the Micron PC Bowl, and we played in the one in Nashville, the Gaylord Hotels Bowl, and that one was pretty fucking great, to be honest. I don't even know where this stuff is. I was gonna say, do they really do the daps with the $100 bill in the hand? Like it's like or is it? You know, it feels awkward to me imagining it in my mind's eye. Like hey, buddy, like here, you know, like let's hang out later if you get a chance. You know, like that's.
Yeah. So there's a couple of those. There was like some envelopes, stuff like that. But it wasn't anything crazy, man. It was just like enough money to get by, shit like that. Like it wasn't.
What Fulmer say when he hit you up when he first heard the news?
Oh, they don't talk to me. They hate me in Tennessee for some reason. I would say for the most part. Like I was like for the most, there's a lot of good people I met in Tennessee. A lot of brothers and a lot of fans that still enjoy me when I run into them or whatever. But for the most part, because I caused that stir, because it was like Tennessee was in the national news, like they think I threw the school under the bus, right? And they're like, there's ever any sanctions, nothing happened because it was untraceable. And so Fulmer, I mean, I don't really talk to Fulmer like that. I don't really talk to anybody like at the coaching staff like that. I just wasn't, because I saw the farce in the system and how much it was fucking kids. I'm just not a cat that's not going to say nothing, right? So I'm like, I wanted to have him on my podcast and I wanted to talk to him, and he was like, well, I called him. I was like, hop on my podcast and let's have a conversation. And he was like, I don't want to get into the business of defending the NCAA. And I was like, yeah, that's wild to me that you don't want to defend the NCAA, but you're going to take the millions upon millions that they gave you, that we helped give you. And it's just wild that kind of play is okay to all of these cats, like all of these Dabo Swinney, Nick Saban, all of these cats. Like, I don't got nothing to say good about them because you have made millions upon millions off the backs of 18-year-olds, man. And you don't, and it's like you could do things like I had like a buddy was talking about this. It was like you could put money in escrow. Like you make $10 million a year, you could put $1 million in escrow every year. Right. And they don't touch it until they graduate. You have like 8, 9, 10 guys graduate a year. They can get a piece of that. That's minimum. Right. But like they don't set up any funds. And even the cats that are in the league, like set them up with like financial literacy classes. Like there's so much wrong, right? I don't want to get in.
No, I'm totally with you. I think like if you could incentivize players, which now the floodgates are starting to open, I think it's awesome. Like for people that are like pro America, pro free market, like this looks exactly like that. So if you have a problem with that, if you were afraid of what it would look like, it's nothing scary, dude. Nobody's holding you at gunpoint asking for money. Like in Miami, there's a gym that I don't know if you heard about this, but there's this gym down there in Miami. They're paying every player $500 to endorse the gym. And I don't even know that they have to do a lot of work, but like that's life-changing money for these kids. Like, I don't think some people understand how broke some of these kids are when they get on campus. Yep. And, to the people complaining, $500, nothing. Like, and it's going to be the world to these kids. So like, forget about the $10,000 endorsement. It's like, there's so much money out there. There's plenty of money. You know how Jay Billis says, like, I don't know if there's enough money. Like that's his whole bit on Twitter. Every time a coach gets hired, they build a bowling alley in Clemson's facility. I don't know if there's enough money for the kids. There's plenty of money. So I guess the question for you would be Arian Foster, 2006, Knoxville, they dropped this law 15 years earlier. I've lost track of time. God, are we old? 15 years ago, they do this. Who are you endorsing? Like, who is Arian Foster going to do a deal with first?
Shit, at that time, I was a capitalist. So whoever and whatever, like it didn't matter. Like whoever's coming at the table, I am endorsing you. Whether it's the burger place down the street or whatever, man, whatever. At that time,
you're not a capitalist now. Now you're a little bit more discerning with how you spend and endorse your likeness.
Well, I think my goal in life is not profit based. Even if I can hear people now like, oh, you say that because you're rich. I'm like, yeah,
I'm with you.
I've seen both sides. Like I grew up taking sponge baths, no water, no light sometimes, no food. Right. And so it's like I've seen both sides. I've seen poverty in America and I've seen wealth in America. And I think I was happier when I was younger, right?
So was I.
Yeah, I don't think
I was rich, but like I was also happier when things were simpler.
Right. I think money it dilutes everything. It corrupts people. It shows you who they really are. And when it's involved in things like politics and the way we're governed, it leads people to do really evil things. And so I'd rather go more towards a communal aspect, a communal where we massage each other and we look out for each other, and put value into human interaction rather than profits, because it's just it doesn't end. Like there's always going to be somebody richer with a bigger plane and a bigger house and more cars and more. And
it's the same thing for your wallet. So like, why are you doing that? Why are you in this arms race? I'm totally with you. I've kind of reached a point in my life where I've never been motivated by money, although it's very easy for me to say that coming from money. Yeah. But it's interesting to hear you say like, I've been broke and it still doesn't mean the world to me, because a lot of people, my dad included, who, money's not everything to him, but he wants to protect what he earned because he grew up with nothing. And like a lot of the athletes we play with have the same sentiment, but you somehow have felt like, this is more of a burden than anything. And I think you said something earlier. It's like, money does not change people. It is a magnifying glass, dude.
Oh, 1,000%. If you're a piece of shit, you're going to be a big piece of shit.
Huge.
If you're a really good person, you're just going to be a really, really good person.
With a fuck ton of money.
Yeah, man. And like, you're just going to extend more. Like you're
gonna do things.
You're going to look for ways to give other people's opportunity. That's what I've seen. And so it always kills me when people are like, hey, it's easy to say that because you got money. I was like, bro, like I've been there. I've been on both sides, man. I'm telling you this thing. Jim Carrey said that quote. He's like, I wish everybody could be as rich and famous as they ever wanted, so they could realize that that's not the answer, because it's not. And you'll hear rich people say that all the time. Oh man, I can listen to them because it's a real thing, man. It's like I've never seen more dark days in my life than all of the problems that money brings.
Yeah,
it's just a never ending. It's a lonely place. It's just not a good place to be, and so I don't think it should be strived for. Like, if you wake up every single, this is the biggest awakening I had, having money and then being retired at 30 years old, dog. That's insane. That's fucking insane. Right? You go on plane rides and stuff and you meet like these oil execs or these big time cats in first class and like, what do you do? And I'm like, I'm retired. They're like, what? They're like 60, 70 years old. And like, yeah, I'm like,
it's an awkward conversation to have with somebody who you're not trying to tell what you do for a living.
Yeah. And then you kind of listen to their life story and how they got their wealth, and you start telling you about yours, and the biggest realization I had retiring at 30 was like, yo, when you have all you ever wanted and you don't have to work for the rest of your life, you have to sit with yourself.
Yeah.
And that sounds easy to do, but
people suck at it.
Bro, when you have to sit with yourself and you have to really look at yourself and you don't keep yourself busy with entertainment and just movies or drugs or vices or whatever, or a job, you have to sit down and you have to really look internally at who am I? What am I? Where am I? What are we doing here? Like those kind of existential questions start to seethe at you. And if you're not like balanced, if you don't seek help, if you don't seek outside accommodation for your thoughts, it's a scary place, and that's why people go into deep depression. That's why people get into the personal lulls that they're on. I've been there, but it's something I have to actively I don't say fight against, but I have to actively accept that it's just, it's a real thing. And that's why I always check up on the cats that I played with, because I know what it's like. You have all this money, you got kids, and you're seeing them grow, and you're just like, what am I without my occupation? How do I find my value and my worth without my occupation? And it's a very deep question.
Yeah, we talk about it a lot on here. Like anytime this stuff comes up, head trauma and that sort of thing, which is dead real. There's no doubt about it. Like you can
I got CTE.
Yeah, I mean, probably I do too, and probably my dad does. I don't want to diagnose him, but he played fucking 26 of our years in the NFL, and like they can see tau protein on people's brains. Like, no doubt about it, it's a bad thing. But I also think we ignore the existential crisis a lot, to the detriment of people who are trying to find their way. And I think what's so interesting. I'm very proud to be a part of the class of retirees that made it through COVID, like in the first, year and a half. Like, because if you'd have told me, hey, you're going to retire into a pandemic where you can't leave your house in the dead of winter and shit like that, I would have said I wouldn't have made it. And by not made it, I don't know what that looks like, but it wouldn't have been pretty. So, but you retired week 7, dude. Like, like that's a tough thing, dude. Like everybody feels like retiring middle of the season, and you had the balls to do it. Like, people have tough years. They go through shit where they're just like, I'm over it. I'm not this guy anymore. When did you realize it? Like what was the moment? And then who was the first person you told, and how did they react?
I remember my dad told me when I was younger. I was like, "How do you know?" I asked him because he played ball in college, and he played. I think he did like a training camp at the Broncos.
Yeah, he was in some camps, right?
Yeah. And I was like, "How did you know when to walk away from the game?" Because at that time, I was like, "Oh, I love it. I want to play forever." And he said, "You'll know when you know," and it always lingered in the back of my mind. And you can kind of feel. I remember 2015. I got on the phone with Barry Sanders, and I was like, "How did you know when to walk away?" I had a conversation with him. And he kind of said the same thing. He's like, you'll know when you know. And I was still kind of dabbling. I had like a year. That was a year or two before I walked away. So 2016, we were playing, I believe it was the Steelers. Yeah, I think we were playing the Steelers or the Browns. It's one of those. I was looking up in the stands. And at that time, I was reading this book called Fabric of the Cosmos by Brian Greene. So like at night, what I'm saying, I would just be reading my book. And I was looking up in the stands, and I was like, I don't give a fuck who wins this game. Like I could not care less who wins this stupid fucking game. I just don't care. I just do not care. And I was like, I want to go home and get in my bed and read. I want to finish my book. Like it was a very like a damn. I was like, and at that moment, I was like, I don't need to be here no more. And so after the game, the next day I went into my coach's office and I was like, yo, bro, like I know this is gonna be wild, but I was like, I don't. I don't want to play anymore. Like I'm done. Like I know I'm done. He was like, "Are you sure, man?" I was like, "I've never been any more sure than anything. I'm really done." He's like, "Okay, well take 2 days." He said, "Come back, and if you still feel the same," he said, we'll help you, through the process." And I said, "All right, bet." That was the worst thing because
who was this?
This was Adam Gase.
Oh, Gase.
Yeah.
So you feel like did you feel like he handled that with a lot of empathy and respect?
Oh, my dude, like, bro, I got nothing but love for him and the Miami organization because they could have had me owe money and I could have been all, but like I think they respected like because when I first got there, they were like a young team, and that's really what they bring vets in for, is to kind of like show cats the ropes, right? And so I had 2 young dudes behind me. It was Jay Ajayi, which he blossomed that year, and then Kenyon Drake, right? And so they knew how to work, but they didn't know how to work like on an elite level, right? And so like I gave them everything that I had. If they had any questions, I was showing them how, like in practice, like little things with running backs is like you finish 20, 30 yards down the field. That's what somebody taught me like when I was young. Like you always finish. Like I always finish way down the field. Like little stuff like that, just work ethic, taking care of your body, shit like that. And I gave them what I had, but I think they respected what I brought. Like I brought like a certain amount of like competition, like shit talking against the defense. It was like that kind of brings camaraderie to your team, and that year that team went to the playoffs. It was like a really good unit. But
we played you guys. I was in New England. We played you guys in like the opener in one of those games at Gillette.
Oh no, that's right. Yeah, that was
a month before you retired, basically, and you had Drake and. Yeah. And I never would have guessed that you were at the end of your rope. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
but
it just goes to show, like, you could be playing well and not really want to be doing that shit anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And so I had, so I went to him and then the 2 days passed and I walked up and I was like, I don't play a position that's like you can kind of coast on. Like, I feel like you can coast on some positions, but like this is like I could hurt myself or I could hurt somebody else really bad if my heart isn't in it. And that's just not something I'm willing to do. And so I told him, I respect the opportunity y'all gave me and everything, but it's like my heart's just not in this anymore, man. And I respect y'all too much because y'all got something good brewing here, and I respect the game too much. I love what the game has given me to just come at it half-assed. And I gave my life to this game. I've been playing since I was 7 years old, and my heart's not in it anymore. I didn't have the love for the grind. I don't want to wake up at 4 a.m, 5 a.m, and sit in the ice tub, or I just didn't have it in me anymore, man. I wanted to go read a book, and once that superseded my love for the game, it was like I knew it was time to walk away.
How was the book? Did it finish well?
It was a great book, man.
Actually, Here's the thing, man. Like you can't decide to want it. Like, and like your pop said, I just feel like there's a day you wake up and you're like, I still want it, but I'm cheating the game if I don't want it bad enough to kill myself to win like I used to. And like, it's just really easy to know where that is, but it's really hard to forecast when it's coming, which is the hard thing. We want to plan. We want to say like, oh, I'll be done here. Like I want to finish next year, but it's a really hard thing, because it just kind of pops up on you,
Everybody wants to finish Super Bowl champion, MVP right off into the sunset. But it's like, nah, man, life ain't like that.
Well, football especially is not like that. I mean, like football, and another thing is coaches always tell you, if you don't want to be here, get the fuck out. Well, you got the fuck out. So
fuck out.
And no teammates gave you shit.
Not to my face.
It got back to you?
No. I mean, no, I haven't heard anything, but I'm sure there's guys, because there's fans and there's people in general who are like, oh, you quit on the team. Like, of course, there's probably people that feel that way, but I think anybody who has played the amount of time and had the amount of success that you've had will respect the decision for the most part, man. Because you got to deal with yourself after the playing days are over, after the stardom goes, after the interviews go, after all that shit goes. Like, you got to look at yourself in the mirror and you got to deal with the body you have left, right? And so it's like, I knew when I was done.
So having a dad who played, I think I read this one time that your dad wanted you to maybe avoid football to a degree, and we have that in common, because Pops didn't want me to play. Neither did Mom. But what went into kind of like that for your dad? And then, I don't know if you have kids or not, but would you let your kids play football?
Right. I wanted to play because my dad played, for sure. That was Pops, right? And he never forced it on me. He didn't want me to play, but it was like, that was, I loved my dad. I wanted to be like my dad. And so, so I played and I was a baller at a young age, and I knew I was different, relative to the kids around me. My kids, I got 2 boys. I don't want them to play. One of my sons is not even remotely interested in football. Like, he's just like, whatever.
Good
man.
for him.
Yeah, I'm super happy about it, man. But one of them is a fucking sports junkie, man. He's really like I'm pretty honest when it comes to my kids, like about where they're at. He's really, really good at baseball. He loves football, but he's really, really good at baseball. And I'm like, all right, bro, if you want to play these sports, like, I'm pushing him. So like every time he comes over, we play catch. Like we do the baseball thing, but they always want to play football. I'm not pushing it. I don't want him to play. He's always like, he has my card, shit like that. Like he's like my biggest fan.
Yeah.
And so like naturally he's probably gonna want to do it. And I'll never be like, no, don't, right? Like, I'm not gonna tell him you can't, right? But like I'll tell him like, son, like it's not the life, man.
Because I've seen the pot of gold, man. Like, and the pot of gold's cool, but it didn't fix my life. Like, it made me a lot of money, no doubt about it. But like, I didn't emerge from it like perfect and like fulfilled. Nah. So I think as much as the safety thing is concerned, like my 5-year-old Waylon, I'm like, I think he's going to be a dirt bike kid, and that's going to be fucked up and scary. But at least he's not going to have to like follow in my footsteps doing something, which I think is also a very stressful thing. Like your son would be 3rd generation NFL, and that's a tough thing, like, cause I've lived that, and it's, it's something you got to be, considerate of. It's like, it's a lot of undue pressure.
Yeah, what was that like? I mean, you probably, and then you were a 1st-round pick, so it's probably a lot of like. Yeah, you got to be able to batten down the hatches and fucking suck it up, because people are, like, in one way it's easy. In one way I had a lot of things good. Like you talked about it, I have a longer rope as a high draft pick, and you're on the other end of it, although you had such an amazing college career. For some reason you plummeted. And your situation, what I felt like was unique, because everybody know you could ball, but like you just, for some reason, were undrafted. And I think for me, it was like, I was ready for the pressure. Like you never get used to pressure, but it helped me as a pro, because not only drafted high, but also drafted to a shitstorm. Like St. Louis was a shitstorm. And as well as anybody, like when a situation's fucked up, like that's like getting drafted to Houston right now. The only difference is that Houston, there's cameras now and people that know what's going on in the building. Houston is not the first Houston, so I think it was really hard. And I think also, whatever you accomplish, it makes you grounded in a way, because you're no big deal in your family, which makes me grounded. It doesn't make me define myself by football, because if I'm going to try to win that game, unless they're going to put a gold jacket on me, it's not, it's like, I had a great career. I was very happy with it, but I'm not going to walk around like I'm fucking 10 feet tall, because that's a positive. But the negative is you can't walk around like you're 10 feet tall. It's just not in you. So, that's an interesting dynamic though, actually, man. Your climb to the NFL was more so like you're trying to prove stuff to yourself and maybe following your dad's footsteps. But everybody in your family was like, yeah, but it's nothing new. Like we've seen this before, right?
Which is cool.
No, yeah, no. I'm saying like that pressure, like that pressure you felt like probably publicly was alleviated when you got around your family.
That's exactly right. Like, it's exactly right. My dad was like, the way you described, hey, I want my son to just like, I'm going to do the baseball thing. Like my dad was in the dugout. Like he would stay out of the way, but like, hey, if you're going to be a baseball player, you're going to take 1,000 fucking cuts. That's all I'm asking is that you work your ass off. And so, I was a kid with opportunity and wealth and privilege. So all I can do as a dad now, 2 generations being removed from having the proverbial gun to your head that you got to succeed or you're going to be out on the street. Mm-hmm. That was my dad's fight. My fight was way different. My fight was like, in a way, you don't have the necessity. So I'm not saying it's easier. It's just different. Like you got to be intrinsically motivated. And there's no like, if I don't do this, my family's fucked or my mom. Like if I had that motivation, I don't know, maybe I'd be better. And maybe I'd probably still be playing, which is not a great thing necessarily. But I think, there's a positive and negative. There's a flip side to everything. And you're right. Like when I got around my family, my dad was just my dad and I was just me. And that was cool, man. It was cool. Yeah. So
I was just saying like, cause like I was the exact opposite of that, right? Like coming from, I'm sure you met plenty of cats like me in the league where it was like, this was the way out. And also like the pressure off the field was probably more than it was on because it's like you taking care of everybody in your family, you showing them the way. Like this is first generation wealth, right? And so it's like you learning the finances on the go, like you learning all this shit on the go, like you don't know who to trust. Like that shit, it's just a really wild ride. Like looking back, and it's like I got lucky along the way because I met some really ethical people.
Yes.
And I know cats who didn't have those ethical people in their corner and they got man. And I think that's a bigger conversation to be had, especially with the NFL. It's like you don't put guys in the best positions to have their finances in order.
The financial illiteracy is something that like even plagued me deep into my career, even coming from money. So the irony is that like even because I wasn't third generation wealthy, so we're not practicing at this. You know what I mean? Like I was the first generation. Like I'm your kids. You know what I mean? Like not as much money. Like when in the 80s they made my dad made all his money after football. So it's just it's such an interesting thing. And then you get in locker rooms and like if your son ever becomes an NFL player or something, there's going to be cats that hate on him. Because that's the thing that is harder is people do dislike you because they perceive nepotism. But the irony of hating on somebody in your locker room because they're second generation NFL is that you're hating on your own son. Yeah. Wow. If he ever gets there.
Eventually. Yeah.
It's a wild thing. Yeah. So, but anyways, you're a rapper now. You're Bobby Feeno. Well, you're a lot of things now, which is awesome. I mean, like we get to see the whole Arian Foster, which is cool, man. And actually, I'm not blowing smoke. I'm sure a lot of people have told you this. I mean, when Nas is interested in your music, like, go figure. But you're fucking good at it, dude. And there's a lot of athletes who take swings at it and they're just not that great. So where do you want to go with it? Like, you have any big plan or are you just kind of doing what you love?
Yeah, no, I'm just doing what I love, man. I went on a tour right before COVID hit. A little small tour. We had to play some small venues like in the South, like eight or nine cities. But yeah, like you said, man, like Nas, I'm signed to Nas, Mass Appeal, Nas's record label. And it's not that I don't need a record label. Nowadays, digital distribution is everything. And so it's more so just like if people do give it a listen, it's like, okay, it's not just somebody doing music. Like, I love this. Like, this is what I do. I would say I'm probably more talented at this than football, but football was just an easier route for me to like, I've been writing and making music since I was a child, like 9-10 years old. I've been doing this. And so now I just get a chance to do it at a level where I've always wanted to. And it's just a part of me, man. So it's like something that like I'm not looking. I don't want to sell out no garden. I don't want to. You don't even want to make videos. I have to kind of sometimes push the content. But leaving like this last project, I didn't make any videos. I'm just over marketing in general. I fucking hate marketing, dog. It's just
Dude, it's the biggest mind fuck. I got a podcast now, and people will be like, "Yo, you got to share your socials. You got to put your face out there. You got," and I'm like, "No, I actually just want to do it, and I want people to like it, but I don't want to try too hard." You know what I mean?
Yeah. I just don't like marketing because it's like it's almost like gimmicky, man. And then it's not why I make music. I'll probably be making music till I'm dead. Like whether I release anything or not, I've been making music since I was a child. But like I'll probably make it till I'm dead. And I really enjoy it. I really love the musicality of it, the instrumentation of it, the strings, the horns, the percussion. Like I'm in love with it. Like I love it. And so I'll be making it forever. But it's such a small piece of actually making music. Like nowadays, and really. All the time, man. It's never really about the music. It's more about like the show of it. And like if every musician is like almost a character, right? And that becomes almost a caricature. And people fall in love with that. People fall in love with the backstories and yada yada. And so like I'm well aware, like when people listen to my music, they're like, oh, he used to play football. And so it's like they're always listening through the lens of, oh, this is a football player. Well, they don't grow musicians on fields. Like we all come from where we come from.
Which can be detrimental too, right? Because people don't
the
look
worst
at
thing.
like this guy's got fucking skill. He's a football player that became a rapper when you were doing this before football.
Yeah, it's the worst thing for it. But it's like again, like I'm not trying to get famous off this shit. Like I couldn't care less, bro. I really just I think if people look past it and enjoy the kind of music that I make, it's right in your pocket. Like I respect the craft. I take my writing very seriously. Like I'm a writer before anything else. Like before I was a football player, I was a writer.
Well, I think it's great, man. I think you've got like the bars are great. The fucking flow is cool. And I like the production. I think the production is, I'm not afraid to say, like when it comes to listening to hip hop, which I do less of than I used to, because I think there's less good music coming out. And I know I sound like an old man yelling at a fucking cloud, but I grew up in the 90s, dude. Yeah. You know, like, production's important to me, and I think like you crush the production side of it, so you can tell you're definitely immersed in the musical side of it, not just like, oh, I got these bars that I've written in a notepad.
Yeah, no, I can't. I think I come from like the branch of like a Kanye, where it's like I like making conceptual songs and conceptual albums, where it's like I'm not just rapping to rap. I mean, there are songs where I do just spit the bars, but for the most part, it's like there's like a message and there's like in the song there's like there's something I'm trying to express, and like that's what I used to love about Kanye. I still do. I love Kanye, just not everything, but
a little differently. It's like, it's hard, man. When he put out that album with the mountains in the background, and he was going through all that ideological bullshit, I was like, I'm checking out.
There's like 2 or 3 or 4 tracks on there that are bangers though, man. It's like I'll always check for him because he's a musical genius. I got yelled at.
I got yelled at the time on the internet because I said, like, I'm not boycotting Kanye. I won't buy his new shit because I think, like, as a person, I'm not buying what he's selling anymore. Yeah. But even like, Kanye, like from, when I was in college, will always, and even beyond that, like, I'm going to listen to his albums. Like, I'm not going to cancel Kanye's old music because I think he's got some stupid takes these days. Like, I'm not going to listen to his new shit because I do think that rap, above other like forms of music, like, it's a very personal thing. So it's hard to separate the artist from the art, in my opinion. So like, if I think a guy's a douchebag, like, it's really hard for me to listen to his music. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I understand that, but I'm the exact opposite. Like,
you're the opposite.
Yeah, because it's like if it resonates with me, like, that's what art is, dog. It's like I could disagree with 99.9% of who a human being is and what they think, but this 0.1 they put in a song that I fuck with, that's the beauty of art, and that's what keeps us connected, and that's what. It's why I used to not think art was like important. Like, if you even look at like in these a lot of these like these COVID relief bills, there was like $30 million for like arts and art center or something like that. And like on the face, it's like, oh, why are you trying to give money? People need money. Like, why are you giving it to arts? It's like arts and the preservation of arts is literally ushering in what our culture is. Like, it is what we are. Like, if you look at any decimated society or culture, like all they do is, if we were to keep, there's 2 things that we keep when we look at old societies that are in ruins. We look at their science, like what they have attributed technologically, and we look at their art, their culture. Those are the 2 things that we always keep from society. So those things should always be preserved. And so it's like, I'll listen to anything. I'm the type of cat where if a dude is on a gas station with a CD, he's like, "Yo, listen to me." I'll listen to him.
Yeah, you probably get a lot more of that now. That was gonna ask. You get a lot of people like, "Yo, check out my SoundCloud." Like they don't.
Oh yeah, and I'll do it. And you know what's crazy is like, I mean, I would say over 90% is not my cup of tea. Right. But every now and then, bro, I will find a dope artist, bro. I found like 2 or 3 like really good. I will go to bat for them because they just dope, man. And I found like 2 or 3 really good ones just on some like, yo, listen to my shit, and I'll listen. I'll give anybody a listen.
Well, no, and where we differ is I feel like there's enough art that I can pick and choose. Like if I don't love Kanye's new shit and I'm like, I think he's a fucking quack now, that's my opinion, then I can go listen to the 50. And you were talking about concept albums. Boy, do I miss Kendrick.
I mean, I think he's the best out in my opinion right now. Kendrick is unreal, dog.
Who else? I love Freddie. I just had Freddie on the pod. I love Freddie as a 90s kid. It's like fucking this guy is the 90s kid with the production of the 2020s, dude. Like the Alchemist stuff, and Bandana is probably my favorite thing he did. But like, who else now is out that you really, really like? If you could here's a better way to put it. Talking about putting things in time capsules to get in the mood for macro dosing here, but they're talking about putting things in time capsules, like they're putting a time capsule in the Space Needle in Seattle, and they were arguing over, do you put a Nirvana or a Pearl Jam album in there? Give me one album that Arian Foster wants to put in a time capsule for aliens to find in 1,000 years.
Oh man, that's tough. A small shout out to somebody now, though, just to answer your question. Now that I'm thinking about it, is Isaiah Rashad. I don't know if you've heard of him.
I don't know Isaiah Rashad.
He's on TDE. He's on the same label Kendrick and like Schoolboy Q. You know, he's like next up. He's so fire. But I think the most complete, and to me it'll be hip hop because it's the best storytelling, right? And so like I'm a black man in America. I grew up in the society I grew up in. To me, what encapsulated that in the best way, that also merged the kind of music that I fell in love with, which I think the best era of music is the 60s and the 70s.
Agreed.
Is To Pimp a Butterfly. That album is fucking perfect, dog. Oh my God.
Great album.
Fucking perfect.
Great album. And you're right. It had so many like outside musical influences, but they're not really outside when you think about it, because hip hop came from other musical influences. Like, so when they're outside of the genre, like, and it's funny, me being a white kid in the 90s listening to New York hip hop, which I really fell in love with, you know, and to the point where I had all the Papoose mixtapes in college, like
Papoose,
dude, so
back name,
like Saigon and shit like that. Like I'm really listening to like real New York rap, and I'm like, I got the buymixtapes.com shit. But like the way I learned about old music was I learned on samples. Like so, like a lot of my favorite music I was first exposed to through samples. You know, so I think it's just so interesting when it comes to hip hop. Like you can always go backwards to find more good music, and I'm always looking for more good music, and I always go backwards. You know,
1,000%, 100%, man. I like sampling. To me, like a lot of people like have disdain for it, but I love it because it like you said, like you find artists through sampling, and it's like the only place where art creates art. You know what I mean? Like it's like the art has a baby, and you get to like see what else was created from it. I think it's a beautiful thing.
And it's a nod. It's, if you're doing it respectfully, it's a nod. And so who are the best athlete rappers who actually made the switch or do both? And you were like, yeah, that guy's pretty good.
There's not many, and I don't say that disrespectfully. I just think a lot of the times cats do it. They just do it for the wrong reasons. Like they like rap and they're just expressing themselves how they express. But they haven't really like understood like, yo, this is an art form, and people have been doing this. Like this is what they give their lives to. Like people study language, people study.
Yeah, you can't moonlight.
Yeah, and so there's not a lot. I think, you know, of course, I think the most famous one is Dame. He cares about what he cares about what he puts down. One that nobody really knows about, bro, is he doesn't do rap. He does like Afro. I forget what the genre is called, man. But Tamba Ali.
Oh, Tamba, yeah.
Tamba shit is fire, dog. He has a song called "Oh My God" that is like heavy on my rotation always, bro. Like that shit is. I love his style, dog. I love it.
There's a lot of good music coming out of West Africa, especially like. I mean, you know, when you're out of shit on Spotify, and really before you're out of shit on Spotify, you should go look at Afrobeat and stuff like that if you're out of music, because there's so many great musicians there. And and there's so much intermingling between like the British rock and roll stuff and like, you know, the soul from the US, and like it's just so cool, man. I really like Shumpert. Amon Shumpert, I thought he was pretty good when he.
I've never really listened to. I've heard that he raps. I think I saw like one video of it once, which I thought was good.
So macrodosing now, okay? How does that happen?
I had a podcast like I think 2017. It's called Now What, and I had like probably like 50 episodes, and I had like really dope conversations.
I remember that actually.
Yeah, it was really dope. Like I had like Snoop Dogg, Neil deGrasse Tyson. They was on like a whole really like an astronaut. It was really dope, man. I stopped because it started to feel like a job, man. Like, and I was like,
It does.
I don't want to do this shit no more. And there's a guy who is like the behind the scenes guy in most of Hollywood stuff. It's a guy named Tommy Altered. You know Tommy?
Tommy's my guy, dude. I talk to Tommy every week. So everybody knows Tommy. Yeah,
everybody knows Tommy, man. Tommy is what I call him the plug. He just hooks shit up, man. And so he was like, yeah. So every now and then, like I'll be in LA or New York, and be like, yo, let's go out to dinner, and he'll set up these big dinners with like a whole bunch of like movers, and so we would every now and then we would meet up in PFT, or Big Cat would be there, or both, and it just love the vibes, good people, whatever.
Yeah.
And Tommy hit me one day. He's like, yo, I got an idea for a podcast. Like, what do you think about this? And I was like, sounds good. So it just rapped and it bloomed from there. So I think it's really dope, man. It's like we're saying, we're really young. We're kind of still feeling ourselves around, but it's starting to develop into a really cool show. I wanted to do something that wasn't as like, I think politics is infused in everything, but I started to get really heavy into politics, man, and it's draining. And so like, I haven't even been on Twitter. I'm off pretty much all social media lately because it's just draining, man. I still follow the news, but I wanted to do something that was like lighthearted, that kind of was fun for me and wasn't traumatic. So this is fun. We just take like conspiracy theories, which always can veer into politics, but we just take like conspiracy theories and we kind of break them down and talk about why they are and what's going on with them. It's pretty fun.
So I was reading, and I'm so interested in this, and I've been saving this for a trip. So I'm gonna start macrodosing now, and I'm not talking about shrooms or anything. I'm just saying I'm gonna start listening to Arian and
take the shrooms too.
Oh, if I were to take shrooms, I would probably love them, and I'd probably take them with regularity. So
for sure,
you know what I mean? But probably the best buzz. I would if I ever took shrooms, I would probably think it was the best buzz in the buzz kingdom.
Man, it's a body high that's so fun, man. It's like this always tell people that there's a difference between like taking a hero dose where you like got to sit down.
I don't want 5 grams, dude.
Yeah, no, that's like that. That's like the where like I think it was in Terrence McKenna where he's talking about like it opens you up. Microdosing is, to me, they're actually doing a lot of studies like at Johns Hopkins. I actually had a fucking visit set up to Johns Hopkins, and they were gonna like kind of show me like all of the like the research that they were doing, but COVID hit. I gotta set that up back, by the way. But they're doing innovative research into how psilocybin can actually be used for medicinal purposes for like anxiety and depression, and it's just really fast. Like when you start to look at like the research and the science behind it, and how like when you take it, like connects neurons that aren't necessarily connected beforehand, and the doper shit is doing it right. So I've microdosed plenty of times in my life, and it's not like like a smoking high where you're just like, I'm zooted and you can't really, I'm stuck on the couch. It's nothing like that. I always tell people like when you do it, it makes you feel like every day you walk or you get up and you're going throughout the, your daily routine. It feels like you're in the earth. You feel like you're
part of the world.
Yeah. It feels like you're in it. But when you take that, you feel like you're a part of it in like this very succinct way, to where it's like, you'll listen to music and you're like, yo, I am this music. Like, well, I am. And it sounds really like, oh, he's on drugs. But it's like, nah, like if you really break it down, like scientifically, there's nothing on this earth that isn't a vibration. All we are is vibrations experiencing ourselves. This universe is just a bunch of different vibrations. Everything is vibrating on a very micro level. When you take it, it just opens your eyes to like a different reality. Like I took mushrooms. First time I took mushrooms when I was like 13, 14, something like that. and I accidentally took them at school. Like I was a bad kid.
And they weren't dosing back then. They didn't have a little scale. Like it's just like, hey, grab a little stem and a cap, and
we took them. And I just remember like it just broadening my horizons of like, yo, what am I doing with my life? Like, because I was like ditching class, I was doing this, like, and it just opened my mind. I was like, what am I really doing here? And like, I've never really met somebody that's taken shrooms or any kind of psilocybin who's a closed-minded human being. I just don't think you can leave that experience and be self-centered, because it makes you realize that you're just a part. You're not the center, but you're just a part of it. And it's really profound, man. I think Eminem had a line a long time ago, but he was talking about marijuana, but like I use it for shrooms. He's like, it's like nature's way of saying hi. Like it's really like the universe talking to you, man. And I'm not even a spiritual cat fan, but it just feels like that when you take it. It's really wild.
It's funny. I thought you were going to refer to the verse where the chick ate the whole bag back on, like on the first girl, on the Slim Shady LP or whatever it was. Come on, you ate the whole bag. Like, no, but you're right. You're right about it. And if I were to take mushrooms, I'd have probably come away from it thinking that that I'm not that important, and that's great.
Yeah,
you know. Man. You feel incredibly centered, like right where you are. And I think one of the hardest things people have a hard time doing is being present. And I think it's used responsibly. I think it's an incredible tool. I think it's one of the best tools we have. And I wasn't on that. I didn't use shit like that early in my life. I kind of waited till I was 30 to try shrooms, and I won't get into whatever else I've tried, but they're talking about CEOs in the Bay are, taking tabs of acid, and, and I think people also need to realize that when you're talking about microdosing shrooms, you're not talking about getting fucked up. It's a lift.
You can do any normal tasks that you can do it on when you're microdosing.
But to define a microdose, it's not, it's the threshold for a microdose is going to depend on your weight and that sort of thing. Yeah. But it's definitely not a gram of shrooms. I mean, it depends. It depends. You guys talk about a lot of like conspiracies on here, including the Denver airport, pseudocide, which I didn't even know the word for, which is basically when you disappear and act like you're dead. The Bermuda Triangle hasn't come up yet, I don't think. But I guess I'm wondering, like, has there been anything that surprised you as being like, oh, I buy that? Like, you guys talk about it. Some of the shit you don't take seriously, probably. But has there been anything that you could sway somebody on after talking about it?
There was one we did early on. It was about like MK Ultra.
Okay.
So that was not really a conspiracy theory. And so like that's what's interesting about the show is like we set the topic a week before, we like all did research for the week, and then we all, come together and talk about it. But MK Ultra was interesting because I always thought it was like, because I saw there's like a famous clip of Al Roker when he was on Good Morning America. He just zoned out, like he was just staring off his face for like a good 40 seconds. It was really wild, and then he just came to, and it was like, oh, that's the government doing MK Ultra, right? And it was like you could like literally Google it, like Al Roker MK Ultra, and it'll pop up. I thought it was like some like wild ass like conspiracy theory where the government's trying to write, but when you dig into what it actually is, it was a real thing. And so what it really was now I'm gonna super paraphrase it, but what it really was the government was experimenting, trying to create super soldiers, and so they would pump them full of LSD on people that they would tell them they were doing something, and they were giving them something entirely different. But the irony of it is
that's like American as apple pie, by the way.
100%. And the irony of it is you're trying to, and actually they copied the Nazis, right? They were trying to mimic what the Nazis were doing, which is hilarious because that's on point for America as well. But they were the irony of what they were doing, where they were giving these soldiers, trying to create super soldiers. They were trying to like have people do like hideous things and have them not remember. Which is fucking gross, but that's what they were trying to do. But the irony was they were giving all these soldiers like LSD, and a lot of them went into psychosis. But the ones that came back to, LSD does nothing but open your mind. Like it's like the government. Like, what am I doing trying to fight the government's war, like that kind of shit, right? So it's like,
dude.
It had the opposite effect of what instead of creating soldiers, you created like a really free thinker. And if you weren't, thrown into full psychosis because of the overdose of the LSD.
Well, not just that, you shouldn't take acid if you have like underlying mental health conditions. I mean, like you shouldn't take shrooms. You should be careful about all that stuff. If somebody's listening, like, oh, I'll go try this shit. Like you should make sure you're straight. Like you're in a good place.
Yeah, I'm an advocate for psilocybin and LSD or any kind of hallucinogen, but you have to do research on it. You have to understand what you're doing, understand the dosage that's safe for you, and don't just walk into it. Have a spotter, have somebody there that's seasoned, that knows what they're doing, because it can be a very joyful, enlightening experience if you do it correctly and you respect it, because it's not a party drug. You don't take LSD and go to the club, fam. You do it like in nature, where it's just you and somebody, where you're trying to connect with yourself and others. Like it's a really powerful chemical, man.
It is powerful and it should be handled with care. But you're saying that the MK Ultra thing, they were trying to fucking just wipe these guys' brains.
Yep, they were trying to create super soldiers to where they can do like crazy, like murderous shit and have them not remember. Yeah. And so this is documented. Like this is literally like there's court documents that this is not like a conspiracy, that it's really happened. And there were like thousands of files that the CIA burned. It's wild, man. So like there's even more tests and stuff that they've done behind the scenes that we're like unaware of. And so that's what's kind of dope about this podcast, is like we'll go into like something. It's like we've done like flat earth before, right? So like flat earth is fucking hilarious to make fun of and shit. But then you'll get into something like MK Ultra, where it's like, yo, this shit really happened and it's wild.
Yeah, and Al Roker he was pumped full of LSD. Is that
Yeah, that would be fire. What's the weather like today, my
on LSD? Another thing is the Denver airport, and I'm so glad you guys have talked about this. And for the record, I didn't hear what you had to say, but I mean, who hasn't gone down the moving sidewalk there and seen the guy with the sword? I mean, the guy with the sword is just stuck in my head. The gas mask and the sword and the You believe that? You think there's shit under there?
Nah. So I actually did a lot of research on this one for the podcast, and so it's like it's funny, and it's so funny that like the Denver airport now makes fun of the fact that people think about it like this, right? So they even have like they have like a gargoyle that's like a mechanical gargoyle that talks about all the conspiracies. And so there's anything from like there's like a bomb shelter that they're hiding children in, and like there's this you go real deep down the rabbit hole. But what I think happened was just like they spent so much time and so much money building this airport out that they overshot the budget. Shit got pushed back, and when there was just so much room that people just started to talk. And after a while, like, and they wanted to do it, like they wanted to design it in a way that was like kind of like modern art form. And so they put like this wild blue Mustang that's like creepy. Yeah. So it's like creepy. And so, and then the story, like shit kept happening, which I think is just like kind of coincidence, but like shit kept happening to where it's like, come on, man, something with this airport. So like the dude that was creating the Mustang, he was putting it up and it fell on him and
he got crushed.
He died. No,
I'm not laughing, but he got crushed.
Yeah,
but all the ways to go to get crushed under your beautiful 30-foot statue of a horse. I mean,
it's
like
wild. It's wild. And so like people are like, oh, look at the eyes are creepy of the horse. And it's like the family, after he died posthumously, made him like a neon red, because it was an ode to the man who made it, because he was actually he made light like neon light signs for a living, and so it's like an ode to him. And so people ran with that, saying like, oh, it's a devil horse at the beginning, you know what I'm saying? So it's like
they just commissioned some fucked up art by the walking sidewalk. If they'd have just not commissioned this art, probably we'd never have this conversation.
Well, if you look into that art, I forget the artist's name because it's been a minute since I researched it. But if you look into that art is actually gorgeous, dog.
It is beautiful, but it's out of place.
But the reasons as to why it's beautiful, right? So the reason, like he made if you listen to how he made it and what he made it for, it's like it's beautiful, dog. And so it's like, I think in general, people like, if that shit was at an art museum, they would not have these conversations. But because it's at an airport and people are used to those boring ass, hexagon paintings where it's just like a whole bunch of patterns, just boring shit like that. People aren't used to like abstract art in an airport, and because they're not, like the rumors get to flying, and I think it's fun, but I don't think anything's going on at Denver Airport.
The last one here, and this is something that made news for you, and it's like in your Wikipedia and shit. I should let you know.
I stay away from that shit.
You spend days defending the take that you could defeat a wolf in Mortal Kombat. So do you still feel that way? Do you still feel like Arian Foster against the wolf, you're the favorite, like minus 200 odds?
You know what's funny though? What's funny is like I escaped poverty in America from the slums of Albuquerque, New Mexico, and grew up in a high school in San Diego, California. Beat the odds, went undrafted, and the most thing I'm known for is me arguing about me beating up a wolf. It's fucking hilarious, dog. But so it was funny how that shit happened, man. That shit, you know how big that shit got? Because you follow me on Twitter for a while. I just be shooting the shit with whoever shoots the shit back.
That's why you're great on there, dude. That's the bummer you left, but I get it because I'm trying to get the fuck out of that thing.
For sure. But that shit actually got me on Joe Rogan, man. Like that shit got me on Rogan. Rogan's like
that's what got you on Rogan.
Yeah, bro. So I'm buddies with Neil Brennan, and Neil Brennan hit me. He was like, "Yo, you want to get on Rogan?" I'm like, "Yeah, for sure." And he was like, "Your wolf tweet. Everybody wants to talk about the wolf tweet." I'm like, that's what got me on Rogan. That's crazy, but all right. But it's funny how I haven't.
For the record, I want to say this. I also believe I can beat up a wolf if that's going to get me on Rogan.
What is the thing, man? So it's like there's a scale, right? So it's like people like sending me these 250-pound wolves. I'm like, fam, like let's be realistic, dog. Not every wolf looks like that. One, no. Two, wolves roll in packs. So it's the odds of me seeing a wolf one-on-one is probably going to be an outcasted wolf, and he's going to be injured or old or he's something like that. And so the conversation started. I was like, yo, when we go camping, like do you go camping like that? And I'm like, I don't really go camping because I don't fuck with nature, because like I'm scared of nature. I'm scared of the water. I'm scared of the woods. I'm scared of bears.
Grizzly bear just ate somebody 2 hours from me, an hour and a half.
And it's not an attack. That's just grizzly bear doing grizzly bear shit. It sucks, but you just stay away from them motherfuckers, bro. And so I was like, but I probably get a wolf one-on-one. And people just like, they went crazy. Like, you cannot. And I'm like, fam, I think I can. And so it's like, and I'm like, okay, if there was one thing that I would have to square up with, like the bear, I'm just gonna die. I would try, but like I'm just gonna die. Because if it's like a cougar or like a wolf or something like that, it's like, yo, I have a slight possibility. There's a chance that I can come out of this alive. I have to think I could beat him, or else I'm going to lose anyway. So I don't want to like rain on your parade. I just don't feel like I don't like you as much in a fight against a cougar. They scare me more than grizzly. Well, again, you're in an octagon. You're not on a trail. But as far as being somebody in nature, like, mountain lions will stalk you. And they'll be on the back of your neck before you even know they're on the back of your neck. Like, you got to come across a grizzly bear and fucking surprise the bear, or be between the bear and the cubs, like the old adage goes. But I really do. I'm not going to laugh at your wolf thing, because I don't think people realized how much you had thought it out. And maybe you're getting a lone wolf, a dying wolf, an elderly wolf, an undersized wolf. I know I could fuck up a coyote. But then this happened. There was a Russian lady. She was like 70 years old. She got attacked by a wolf, a lone wolf, and she fucking killed him. Woo! So I'm not saying I'm that Russian lady. I'm just saying I like my chances, bro. That's all I'm saying.
I love it, dude. I love it, dude.
I'll send you that article too. I'm just saying.
Please do. And have you seen the movie The Gray?
Is that with Liam Neeson? Neeson. Yeah. I think I saw it on an airplane once, so I was like in and out of sleep.
Watch it again. Take an edible. Watch it again, and tell me if you think at the end of the movie. A spoiler alert for people listening and everything. But anyways, a poll came out recently. Which of the following animals, if any, do you think you could beat in a fight if you were unarmed? This was a real legit YouGov poll. Not that polls mean fucking thing, which is what we've realized. But right. I don't know what's more confusing here, that 8% of people think that they could beat an elephant, or that 28% of people don't think they could beat a rat. 8% think they could beat a silverback gorilla. Are you fucking kidding?
There isn't a human being on this earth that can beat a silverback gorilla.
No chance, dude.
What the fuck?
No chance. So I want to see where you land on this. I'm gonna go down the list. Rat, obviously, yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna get a rat.
House cat.
Yeah, I'm gonna get that. I was gonna hurt.
Yeah,
I'm gonna get them.
I don't even like house cats, honestly.
I hate cats. And I hate dogs too.
Ooh, goose.
Yeah, I can get a goose.
They scare me unnecessarily, but I'll snap that thing's neck. Like I don't want to be around it, but if I had to, I'd snap its neck.
Yeah, like I don't. I should preface this all with saying I don't fuck with animals. Like I don't like they stay in your lane, I stay in my lane.
Medium-sized dog.
Yeah, I got a dog.
Eagle.
Yeah, I get eagle.
Well, you've already asked about a wolf. I'll skip large dog. Chimpanzee.
Nah, I don't think I get a chimp.
Because the thing about the chimpanzees is 17% of people think they can take a chimpanzee.
Nah, I don't think they don't understand how strong the
chimpanzee
is.
Yeah, when you see a chimpanzee without hair, bro, go Google that shit and tell me you can beat that.
Well,
thing
it's like so, like you know how like you're a teenager and you start to lift weights and you're starting to feel big, right? And then you go mess with like some 30-year-old who don't have no muscles, and you just shake his hand, and you're like, "Why is he so strong?" There's a different strength. It's called grown man strength, right? And so, and so chimpanzees they be swinging on trees. They grab their entire lives. That grip is different, dog.
Last one here, kangaroo.
Nah, I can't get a kangaroo, bro. I can't get They box. They literally box, G. Like they box,
got hands.
And they stand on their tail and they kick. Nah, I'm straight.
All right, well that we ran down the whole list, man. Arian Foster definitely can beat up a lone wolf.
Maybe.
Heard it here. Definitely a coyote. We could both fuck up a coyote.
I could definitely get a coyote for sure.
Arian Foster, appreciate it. Bobby Feeno, new album out. It's called Bohemia. Where can you get it? Probably anywhere you can get any really good album. Yeah,
it's any streaming, whatever your streaming service is, Apple, Spotify, Google, whatever your shit is, it's there.
And I'm on SoundCloud.
Bang, I'll check you out, bro.
I'm just joking.
Check you out, dog.
I got to come see the studio, man. Hey, come on again. I really appreciate it, man. It was great catching up with you, and congratulations on all the success. And I hope you come back to Twitter a little bit more because that place sucks.
Anytime, my brother. I appreciate you having me on.